We want to welcome you and thank you for joining our Empower Me event hosted by Employee Resource Groups Energy and BIPOC Connection. We would like to welcome Dr. Melissa C. Barron, who is a bilingual family scientist, lead professional facilitator, program developer, and Latinx mom. Dr. Barron has a higher education doctorate and is an effective leadership developer who specializes in the design, evaluation, and implementation of learning programs for adult and youth. By trade, she operates from a strategic mind, best described as a powerful intertwine between passion, determination, and resourcefulness. She is a demonstrated achiever with exceptional knowledge of psychological principles, research and statistical analysis, program development, and mentorship through empowerment. After almost 20 years of hard work and patience, 3 months shy of her 21st birthday, she was finally able to say, "I am legal. You cannot kick me out. You cannot deny me in education. You cannot stop me from accomplishing my dream, and you cannot stop me from becoming a powerful voice for my Latino community." Dr. Barron has been recognized for her passion and dedication to underserved Latino and immigrant communities. In 2016, Ford Motor Company named her one of the nation's Mujer Legendaria, which recognizes Hispanic women who are making a difference in the workplace, their homes, the environment, and the community. May her journey empower you. Please welcome Dr. Melissa Barron.
Thank you so much, everyone, for being here. Thank you, Christina, for introducing me as well. Welcome, everyone, to our space today. Let me share my screen and we will get ourselves started. All right, give me one moment. We'll set ourselves up. So today's discussion, as Christina just said, is called Empower Me, A Doctor's Journey Through DACA. My name is Dr. Melissa Barron. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and ella for those that speak Spanish. I'm a lead professional learning facilitator at RMC Health. Excuse me. A program developer, a social entrepreneur, and a Latinx single mom of 3. So it's been one heck of a journey. RMC Health, we believe at RMC Health, we believe that healthy young people are more successful in school and in life. And so we provide professional learning and capacity building that helps wellness champions transform their knowledge and skills into effective, healthy programs and policies, so students of every background can live their best lives. To learn more all about the amazing work that we actually do nationally, so not just in our state of Colorado, but we actually do this work across the nation, I'm going to drop a link into the chat and also another link that will lead you to a PDF about some great upcoming trainings that we'll be doing and I'll be facilitating through our organization. So we can hopefully continue to connect, support all of you today beyond our chat. So I encourage all of you to click on the link and also to bookmark it because we are one heck of an organization. Here is also the document I'm saying, so you can learn more about some of the trainings we have that are coming up this winter. Before we begin though, I'm going to be speaking and engaging with all of you, and questions might come up that I can't answer in the moment because we'll be engaged in this reflective process that I hope is going to happen through all of this chat. So what I'm going to do is also, there's going to be a link that's going to be dropped into the chat, or you can also pull out your phone if you're comfortable and scan the QR code on your screen. That will lead you to a Jamboard labeled parking lot. And this is a place for you to write questions throughout our chat and conversations today. We're also going to have time at the end to come back and have an open discussion and some questions, but just in case they're pressing and you don't want to forget them, this is a really great place for you to put those questions down. I'm also going to ask you, while you put those questions in there, if you can provide an email if you feel comfortable so that I can respond back to you directly. I'm also going to circle back and answer those questions in the actual Jamboard if they're not too private. And you can circle back and read them at your leisure if you do not want to provide your email. Here is that link for everyone now. Again, I encourage you to bookmark it, and it'll be a way that we can continue to communicate beyond our chat today. All right, so let's really get started. Before I begin telling you what I actually call my fire story, I'm going to ask you to do something first. I'm going to ask you all to take a moment and to close your eyes. And I'm going to ask for some grace, because what I'm about to ask you to do is something that may make you anxious, nervous, uncomfortable, or even scared. Some of you might not be ready to do this, and that's okay. So I'm not going to ask you to do something that you can't do. I'm going to simply ask you to lean into the discomfort as best as you can and as much as you actually want to. Take a deep breath and close those eyes if you haven't done so already. I have one simple request. Try and remember the first time in your life where you knew the decision you were about to make would change your life forever. Take about 2 minutes to reflect. And then I'm going to ask us all to share in a collective, safe way. I want you to think about what you're feeling in that particular moment, what was happening, what you were doing, the smell, the taste in the air. Try and relive the moment as best you can and as much as you can. All right, 10 more seconds. I welcome you to open your eyes again. Mario, who's graciously providing tech support in this presentation, is going to drop a link in the chat, and I'm going to share with all of you what that link is going to look like. So hopefully you're familiar with this, what's called a Mentimeter. And so with that link, I want you to click on it and you'll see this in front of you. And it'll say, what is one word that best describes the first time you knew the decision you were about to make would change your life? That particular moment. So I want you to find one word. You can actually submit more than one word, but I would want you to submit one word, push enter, submit, and then submit another if you would like. And it's a collective way for all of us to share out. I want to recognize that we're not all ready to share their story because it might not be in your past. Rather, it's your present or something you're still processing and enduring, as well as the fact that we haven't established a relationship with each other or this as a safe space for all of you to do so. So using the Mentimeter cloud, we can get a pulse at where the group is collectively today, and by allowing for anonymous share outs and creating safety to do so. There we go. So I want you to take a look at the powerful cloud that's being created from all the words, from all the stories that we're all collectively about, I think 30 plus of individuals sitting here in this space. Some are excited, traumatic, exhilarating, birth, accomplishment, embarrassment, nervousness, scared, uncertainty, freeing. I love the woo. Some were comfortable in that space. Others felt fear. Many of these words that are here, I have felt myself, and I can 100% or 110% relate to throughout different moments in my own life. I want to thank you all for leaning into that discomfort and for sharing out. I want you to continue to hold on to that moment. And if you need to write it down, please do so now. We're going to come back to it later. Again, thank you for leaning in. So now I want to share to you a little bit about my story. My story begins at age 2 when my parents brought me to the United States, but my first fire story actually happened at age 17. That was the first time when I knew the decision I was about to make could either propel me forward or forever hold me back. 17 is the second hardest year in my life. So many things collided for me. My education, my family, my sexuality, my womanhood, and even my right to choose. I would like to share with all of you one of those pieces of that story, one of those decisions I made back then. As I prepared to go to college, live in a dorm room, explore the world, and live a life as a young 18-year-old free Latina, my world was shattered. When I was told I didn't have a green card and I didn't possess a 9-digit social security number, so I couldn't attend college because there was no trust fund. There was no scholarships. There was no savings account. There wasn't even a credit card I could charge it on. I couldn't use anything that we had because there was nothing to pay for my education. I was faced with a decision and a realization. I realized at the moment I had total control over the choice. What choice? It was either to leave or stay in America, a country that wasn't necessarily my own, but I felt and still feel is my country because as a DACA kid, I didn't know any other country. For those who don't know what a DACA kid is, we're actually children who were brought here to the United States where we didn't choose to be here. We didn't choose to be illegal, and we did not choose to live here illegally. I want to take a pause just in case the word illegal just made you cringe a little bit rather than me saying the word undocumented. That's a word I use to describe my experience as it represents a defining moment in my life, but it's not part of our conversation today. You can read more about it in the book I'm writing when I finish it. So I chose to say, but I also gave myself a deadline when I made that decision. The decision I made was to work as hard as I could, save up, and research until I found a way to go to college here in the US. So I actually did just that. I worked what we call under the table in the hopes that one day I'd get a green card and be able to continue with my life here. That was a hard reality right before my senior year of high school. I was 17, scared, angry, lost, and at times I felt hopeless. I had to stop, scream, cry, yell. I even laughed in frustration. And simply, I created a game plan. Don't get me wrong, my world was shattered. All that I hoped for, dreamed of, and worked so hard towards died that night. And as I cried all night, I woke up in the morning, I'll never forget, sitting on my parents' dresser, focused, angry, and ready to conquer the world. Because in my head at 17, I had a plan. I had this all figured out. So did I stick to my plan? To a certain degree, yes, I did. Looking back at my 17-year-old self and the choices I made after, it really didn't matter too much what the plan was. What mattered most was the fact that I even had a plan, that I was focused, determined, and that I knew I was going to let this challenge in my life stop me, because it simply was that. In my head, it was just a challenge. I could not let it hold me back. And so that's exactly what I did. Not everyone is as lucky as me. For example, my sister spiraled after she faced the same reality 4 years earlier than me. Today, she's homeless, suffers from drug addiction, a battle that she fights every day in the streets of New Jersey. So I ended up raising her son, who is now my 17-year-old son, getting ready to go to college. I was able to see this ball and chain as one heck of a stepping stone. The anger, frustration, hopelessness that I felt became a fire that still drives me forward today. I could have been angry at my parents, really pissed off at 17 for not telling me while I was younger, having me do all this work and then not being able to go anywhere. At least I thought I couldn't go anywhere. I could have been mad at the lawyers who defrauded my parents multiple times as they tried to legalize our situation over the years. Can you imagine the money that was stolen from my parents actually equates to my college education? It's really the cost of my bachelor's degree. So today I carry that debt with pride. Now I want you to fast forward in my journey. 17 years later, through a pandemic, I reached my goal of getting an education all the way up to a PhD. I'm a mom of 2 little ones. I have a teen who is 6 months away from graduating high school and ready to embark on his own journey. I'm an American citizen of the United States, finally. Today, I hold 3 nationalities, 3 passports. Where at 17, I was devastated and angry, I didn't lose hope. I was confident and knew, because I was focused, that I had the capacity in me to make it happen. I never gave myself a choice or any other choice but to make it. So as many of you can imagine, there's a lot more to this story, but we'd actually have to be here for a week-long retreat with lots of snacks and lots of tissues just to sit back and unpack it all. And I don't think we have all that time today. So I want to shift the focus on how I overcame rather than the details of the trauma that I endured. So I'm going to ask you once again to bring top of mind your fire story, that moment where you were chained down and needed to break free. Yet the decision, the moment, was life-changing. So Mario is going to launch a poll with 2 questions. Again, this is going to be another way for us to collectively share out, to still be anonymous, and create safety so it encourages that share out. Here's the first question. What helped you overcome? Meaning, what was the primary driving force? Was it fight? Was it fear? Was it love? Hope? Or was it something outside of you? Maybe it was others, like friends, significant others, children, that help you rise in that moment. As you
Dr.
can all
Barron,
imagine.
my apologies. As they're sharing the poll, are you supposed to share your screen again?
No, it's fine. It's sharing in a second. When we end the poll, I can share the results.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mario. As all of you can imagine, there is a split across our screen. I'm going to end the poll now and share the results with everyone. So 31% said fight, right? 11% fear, 11% love, 26% hope, and 20% outside of them. I know there's probably others, or I could have put an option that said other, but I wanted to limit it to these 5 on purpose. But fight, that inner fight, that fire and drive is the main one, which is very interesting to me. I just want you to reflect on that. Now let's do the second question. Mario's going to launch the poll again. The second question goes a little bit deeper. Did you actually overcome? Yes, you did. You're done. You're good. You believe you did, but you're not 100% sure. You're still processing some of that trauma. You want to, or you're actually just not ready to. And that's okay as well. A few more seconds to give those a chance to think about this question. I know it's a little deeper, requires a little bit more thought. All right. And let's see the results. So yes, you did. About half said, yes, I got it. I'm through it. I survived it. 18% believe they did. So we're hoping that to believe is actually a reality, and 37% are still processing, and 3% want to. No one is not ready. Regardless of where you were on each of these questions of this poll, I want to congratulate you for simply taking the time to think, process your story, reflect on it, and even just share out in this safe space. It is truly an individual journey. So for me, reflecting back on all these moments in my life, I would call them fire stories. All those different ages, all those different numbers. I would wonder if I was even old enough to understand that something needed to change, that something needed to be done by my stories, by what happened. And my stories begin at age 10, age 15, 17, 21, 24, 28, 30, 31, 35, and 36. And I'm only 37. I've had a lot of moments I've had to overcome in my life. Many, if I told you the story, you'd be wondering, how the heck is this woman still standing? What pushed me forward through those moments, in times where the pain could have broken me beyond repair, where I found myself down on my knees, or in some instances I should have died, somehow I got up. What do I consider step one? What can you learn from my journey? The first step for me in those pivotal moments, I consider it to be recognition. Fight, fear, love, hope, and others are part of the reasons why I overcame, which is why they were part of the poll. It's really hard to motivate someone. It's really hard to tell someone why something happened, to help them understand why something happened, to give them an explanation that satisfies, and to help them process trauma, issues, problems in their lives. It's actually not your job to motivate them, to be the why, or to provide that explanation. A lesson I learned throughout the years. Many might not know how, or simply just don't actually have the answer, nor would the answer even suffice to that person. So again, the first step for me, which I recommend to others, is to simply stop and recognize that this is a moment in your life that something needs to give. So I sat back in those moments in my life and I did just that. I was able to recognize that something needed to change. And I'm not saying that you need to make a change that's huge, because sometimes a change was baby steps. Others, it was jumping and leaps forward. Other times it was actually steps backwards. So I don't even mean you have to move forward. Sometimes others are going to tell you, take a step in the right direction, meaning forward, actually. I'm simply saying there's value in recognizing the need, in taking a pause and beginning the process of recognition. Thinking back on my own story, I was able to sometimes, yes, take a few steps backwards, cry, scream, yell it out, and regroup to be able to run and jump forward. Or other times, again, it was simply baby steps or steps in lateral directions by simply looking at something from a different perspective, by Googling it, asking others, reading a book, or sometimes I just need to go to sleep and not think, because it would help me then find the answer. I knew exactly what needed to be done. But again, all of this processing started with the recognition. Could I recognize those moments? Could I see I was blind, and that my blindness was leading me to denial? There are many people who can see there's problems, who know there's a need to change, and who want to change, who hope to change. Can you see the second poll? Some of us tell ourselves many words like want, need, and hope. Yet can anyone motivate you to actually change? So I want you to think about that question again. Can someone else motivate you to change? We sometimes think the answer is yes, and you might be right. But I don't believe so. I think it has to come from inside, because if an external motivator is gone, do you revert back? Do you keep going? Do you feel lost? what happens? So I've learned through all my years of working with families and children in mentorship as a behaviorist, as an educator, facilitator, social entrepreneur, a motivational speaker, and just a mom, that motivation must be internal. And to get motivated, to get someone to get them motivated, it doesn't come from anyone else. And like I said, telling somebody why something happened or helping them understand the why of something can actually be a years-long process. Sometimes it can take a lifetime because many will never understand or many will never get their answer. They must just accept the answer might not ever come. So why something happened, why it's happening to them, to understand it is a personal journey. It's part of an internal acceptance to whatever the answer may be. So for me, again, it comes down to simply recognizing those moments, taking a step lateral, forward, backwards. I think it's extremely valuable to acknowledge that you made a step in whichever direction serves you to be able to get out of that place where you feel stuck. Because trust me, I've had years and moments in my life where I have just felt stuck. Mentally, emotionally, physically, financially. And then the day came, I recognized. I was like, oh my gosh, I need to take a step. I'm stuck. And no one else could make that step for me. And you would think after repetition of these moments, because I told you all the numbers of these moments, you would think I could recognize it faster. I could be like, yeah, duh, I'm in it. I got to do something. I got to get out. No, life doesn't necessarily work that way. And I'm not trying to stand here and sit with all of you and tell you, yep, I'm an expert at it now because I've lived it. So now I can recognize it even faster. Nope. I continue to have those moments in my life and I anticipate they're going to happen again. And I anticipate again that I'm going to continue my life. And when those moments happen, I'm going to try and take a deep breath and stop and recognize that I'm in those moments. But I've also recognized the fact that it can take me days, weeks, or years to recognize that I'm stuck in a situation. The one thing I can tell you that I do try, right? I 100% try, but I don't say I 100% succeed, is I don't judge myself or beat myself up for not realizing it sooner. Rather, I congratulate myself for waking up and finding the strength to move forward, however long it took me to wake the fuck up. Excuse my language. It's like I tell my oldest son, the day your mom wakes up, my sister, and she decides to come at him in an apologetic way and build a relationship with him. And let's say they have 50 plus years of life left to enjoy together. He has a choice to make. Does he want to try and build relationship with her those next 50 years and live those moments that will be hard but can be happy? Or does he want to stay angry for the 8 years of abandonment in his childhood? It's a choice he'll have to make. Prolonged anger or a pathway to relationship. So what I do is I celebrate myself and others for finding the strength to make moves. At age 17, I made moves. Clearly, I'm still here, right? I stayed. I researched. I found a way to go to college. I cried. I suffered through many other fires. Yet I followed through until the happy day of 35 in the middle of a pandemic. I was 7 months pregnant with my beautiful little girl. And I heard those beautiful words from my doctorate committee. Welcome, Dr. Barron. You're officially done. You've completed your dissertation and your doctoral program. They congratulated me virtually because the congratulations had to be virtual because we were in the middle of a pandemic. So I didn't get the hugs and kisses and the tears that you would expect after all those years. But 6 months later, I was lucky enough that the pandemic was coming to an end. And I was able to walk across the stage and receive my diploma. And I finally got those hugs and kisses and those tears and those cries from my colleagues, my members that were with me through that process. My parents and my children were all there to see me. And I got to cry, and I had tears that represented parts of my journey. Here are some words that represent that journey. Happiness, fulfillment, accomplishment, and trauma, pain, betrayal, financial instability, emotional, physical, mental abuse, suicide, and rape. All those are key words, part of my story, and are represented by those different numbers in my journey. These are all things I endured, I overcame, but here I'm standing or sitting. Excuse me, I get choked up a little bit on this part. Before all of you today, because I'm sharing just one small piece of that journey. So I'm going to ask you all to sit back and reflect and recognize your own story. So I don't want to take up this entire time of this conversation by you being empowered, externally motivated, inspired, or emotionally moved by my story. I want you to also take this moment to reflect on your own. So I'm going to share my screen again. As you leaned into that discomfort and you paused and reflected, I'm now going to ask you, remember how I said, hold on to that story, we would be coming back to it. Well, guess what? The moment is here. You just heard a part of my fire story, one small piece. So in a moment, Mario's going to drop a document in the chat, and I want you to take a few moments to reflect on what would be considered your fire story. Just one piece that you can use and that we talked about in the beginning of our story in that conversation. If you feel comfortable to use that, to lean into that discomfort and share it out. It is a document where it will be anonymous, so no one will see that. In a few words, you can write down that information. And I want you to think about filling in the gaps and details, because I want you to take that story and be able to tear it apart as I did and have done over and over for the years on paper, on a whiteboard, with others in conversation, through therapy. And I'm going to ask you to reflect on it and to not dwell on it, which I know can be hard, because I'm going to ask you to learn from it. It helped me see the light in a way from situations I thought were impossible. It helped me serve as a mentor, educator, facilitator, and a mom, because I take the skills learned in the pieces that come from those moments that I've lived and how I endured. All those moments, the hard ones, the fun ones, the funny ones, I use as part of my story. It's part of the narratives that I share with people when I teach. It allows me to connect with others, to build trust and rapport and relationships, because I use those pieces as stepping stones and chains that I broke free from. So I don't believe that I just want to share my story. I want to give you tangible tools to help you process and begin to find a way through success from your own story. So as you can see, Mario dropped the document into the chat. Please let us know if you're having issues accessing it. And on the left side of that document, you'll see the ball and chain, which are pieces that held you down or still might hold you down, like feelings, experiences, memories, or beliefs that are part of your story. On the right side, it's the things that you have broken free of, that you're trying to break free of, or that you want to break free of. I'm going to give you about 7 minutes to start writing down that story. You can turn off your cameras if you have them on, take that reflective moment and lean into this comfort as comfortable as you want to and as much as you can. I will prompt you when it's time to come back. You have about a minute left. So you want to start wrapping up what you're writing, your thoughts, and don't worry, this is something you can continue beyond our chat today. All right, so for those that do want to turn their camera back on, I welcome you to do so now, and put the pen down or the keyboard if you were typing it in the digital download, so we can finalize and close our chat for today. So I want to first thank you for, again, leaning back into the discomfort. And I'm going to ask all of you to indulge me one last time in a less anonymous, but again, it's still a safe way to share out. We're going to do what's called a waterfall chat. So I'm going to ask you to think of the word and then type it, but do not push enter until I say now, and then we'll see all the words pop up in the chat. It's a very simple, low stakes question. It's simply, how hard was it for you to actually do this fire story, to actually put pen to paper or keyboard to start to begin to write the story? So nothing about the story. Was it something that came naturally, easily, hard? You're like, nope, I didn't even do it. And that is quite all right. So think of that one word or those two words that describe how hard it was for you. Again, I just want to get a pulse of the group. Give you about a minute to think of that word. All right, hopefully you got it. Now, push enter. Let's see what it is. See, we got not hard, freeing, tough, difficult, cathartic, extremely difficult, complicated, easy, vulnerable, disturbed, comfortable, moderately hard, exciting, hard, right? Which is very similar to the cloud we had at the beginning where you thought of the story and now to actually start to begin to process the story. So I want to thank everyone for joining, engaging, and listening. I want to take these last few moments before I do just close out and provide just some contact information to open it up for discussion. So if you do have any questions you would like to ask me at this moment, I welcome those questions. You can put them in the chat or you can unmute and share whole group.
Thank you so much, Dr. Barron. It was so lovely.
You're welcome. Just in case there is that opportunity to put that information into the parking lot to be able to ask any questions, and we can definitely address them later. So I'm seeing none and hearing none, but if you do or you haven't finished typing that question, please make sure that you drop that into the chat and I can definitely address it and answer it. Or there are ways to reach out to me directly. And let me share that information with all of you. One moment. So I want to thank you again for listening, engaging, and joining this conversation today. I encourage all of you to continue to do this practice of recognition. I did and still do with different pieces of my story to motivate and to remind me where I've come from and to use it as support to continue to push me forward, because trauma is not something that's easy to process. So I'm not asking you to do that now, and I would never actually ask you to do that. I can just simply tell you that I have lived and survived it and continue to process it as much as I begin to grow as a human being. And I use that as a way to better myself as a person, for those that I love, and of course, equally as important, for myself, so I can be a better mom, advocate, friend, and supporter of those in my community and my family members. As you see in front of you, there is my personal email as well as my RMC email for those that would like to learn more about the organization, learn more about our upcoming trainings. You can continue to refine your craft and get better at what you do. I'm here to support as best as I can. I want to thank everyone for joining in on our conversation and taking the time to listen to me today.
And Dr. Barron, we sincerely want to thank you for being here with us today. And I don't know if you're seeing, but you're getting a lot of love in the chat. So make sure that you stick around and read all that through. But, you know, sincerely thank you for sharing your journey with us today and for sharing your skills for overcoming challenges and conquering goals. And I particularly appreciate, you know, you reminding the impact of our choices, right, on how we view our challenges and the impact of those decisions, you know, how we view our choices then impacts the decisions that we make, right? And it can help guide. And so I thought that was really, really touching. And thank you all. I just want to thank the participants for being here with us today. And also just to close out, thanks to the Energy and BIPOC Connection ERGs for helping organize and facilitate the event.
Thank you for that. Definitely. It was definitely exciting. I see that some people are putting in the chat that the parking lot for some reason is under viewer and not editor. So I will make sure to update that as well. So those questions that do come in. So I see you're trying to use that way to communicate with me. I appreciate it. I will update that as well. And thank you so much for inviting me, having me here, taking the time for both organizations. It was definitely exciting. And thank you for allowing me to share this vulnerable space with all of you. Have a beautiful afternoon wherever you are in the country. Take care, everyone.
Thank you so much again.
You're welcome.